In these notes, we're going to talk about the names of angles and what types of angles are formed when we have some intersecting lines. So transversal is one of those names, and that would be our line T right here. So it's a line that intersects two coplanar lines at two different points. In our picture, it's that line T that is going to be our transversal line. So next, one of our main ones we're going to see is corresponding angles. So corresponding angles lie on the same side of that transversal and on the same sides of the intersected lines. In other words, you can think of they're in the same location. So for example, we could say that angle 1 is in the same location as angle 5, so it's that upper left corner. So if we did the same thing for angle 2 would be the same upper right corner as angle 6. Angle 3 then would be the same as our 7, and then 4 would be the same as 8. And we don't really need that second line unless you wanted to use it. Next is our consecutive interior angles, and they lie on the same side of the transversal and between the intersected lines. Another name for this could be the same side interior angles. And on our picture, these are all the pairs of consecutive interior angles. So it has to be between the two intersecting lines. So here's our intersecting lines. You only have a choice of 4, but then they need to be paired up on the same side of that transversal line. So it'd be 4 and 5, and then 3 and 6. This next one is similar to it, but we have consecutive exteriors. So they lie on the same sides of the transversal, but they are outside the intersected lines. So the angles that are formed by outside our intersecting lines would be 1 and 2 and 8 and 7, but I want them on the same side of that transversal. So it would be my 1 and 8 and then 2 and 7. The alternate interior angles then are two angles that lie on opposite sides of our transversal, and they are between the two intersected lines. So between our intersecting lines would again be these 4 in the middle, but they're on opposite sides of this transversal. So that would be my 4 and 6 and my 3 and 5. So 4 and 3, remember those are just a linear pair, so we want to make sure they're kind of in opposite corners as well. So 4 and 6 and then 3 and 5. Lastly, now we have alternate exterior angles. So they lie on opposite sides of our transversal, but they're going to be outside the intersected lines. Remember, if they're outside the intersected lines, that would be 1, 2, and 8 and 7, but they're on opposite sides. So not 1 and 2, but it has to be 1 and 7 and 2 and 8. Now we're going to get into, if we see the picture, we need to come up with a name that matches those angles together. So my 1 and 7 are right here, and they're in the same location, so that upper left corner. So same location as our corresponding angles. 2 and 6 is right here and here. Notice the transversal line is going down the middle, so they're going to be alternate something, and they are outside of those intersecting lines, so it'd be alternate exterior angles. Now for the 4 and the 8, they're still on the opposite side, so that would be alternate something. But then they are between these two intersecting lines, so it's on the inside part, so that would be interior angles. Now we're going to start getting to some overlapping pieces. We have this 3 and we have 4, and those are on the same side, so instead of same side we use consecutive. And they are between our lines C and D, so that would also be interior angles. For the last one, 6 and 8, I want you to come up with this one on your own of what the word would be for 6 and 8. It should be the same as our red ones that we did, so they're in the same location, and those would be corresponding angles. Now where this is going to come in is we are going to tie together our linear pairs, vertical angles, with some of these vocab words. So in number 2, if we know that our angle 5 over in our picture over here is 36 degrees, so I briefly sketched out the picture again so I could write my measurements in there. We're going to need the same picture for number 3. So I put my 36 here, and from that I should be able to fill out my angles that are surrounding it, just like we saw earlier on one of the other notes. So our vertical angles are right there, and then we know that the other 2 remaining angles will be congruent to each other, but together they are 180 degrees. So that means that leftover angle then is 144 degrees. Angle 4 then is our 144, that upper right corner over there. And so is our angle 6 And then angle 7 is across from our 5, so that was the 36 we had filled in first. Now the same thing's going to happen for number 3. So if angle 2 is 118 degrees, we know that 8 automatically will be exactly the same because that one are vertical angles. Then our angle 1 and our angle 118 are a linear pair. And because of that, we know that angle 1 plus 118 will equal 180 degrees. And that means that angle 1 then will be left with 62 degrees. And I want you to fill in now what should angle 3 end up being over in our picture. All right, so you should have said that it will also be 62 degrees for a couple reasons. Either you could say that it is a linear pair with 118, or you could say that it's a linear pair with the angle 8, or you could say that it is a vertical angle then with our angle 1. So any of those would work.